Welcome back to our channel. Our project today is we're building a outside Adirondack coloring station for kids. It's going to have a crayon backrest on it, and it's going to be quite colorful. So follow along, and I'll show you how we built it. We're using cypress. You can see that I'm marking out my strut legs. So this is a bit of a downsized copy of a Adirondack chair, so it'll be outside. I'm using full 1-inch dimensional cypress. This is actually cypress decking. It's select tight knot, and and it's dry. It was at 13% moisture, so it's a good product to use for outside projects. So I'm just cutting out the legs now on the bandsaw. It's a template that I've used before, so if you've followed our channel, you'll be able to see the other project that I've done with it. What I'll do is I cut out both legs, and then I'll pin them together as I sand both of them together so that they're the same size. You can either do this on a shaper or sand them. If I was going to do a lot of them, I'd set up my shaper and a template jig and just do it. But I'm only doing 2 of them. You can see them there, so I'll stack them on top of each other and put a pin nail in each end, and then just take them over to the sander and sand them off. There they are. You can see that they're pin nailed together. And whenever you mate the 2 of them together, it just means that they'll be the exact same curves and dimensions, and it's a lot easier than going back and forth and trying to make copies. Now I'll just go around. I'll just take off the sharp edge. I'll just put an iris on them. I'm just giving these all a sand with 150. I believe I started off with 100, and then I'll just give them all a sand with 150. I'd like to mention too, I'm using Osmo paints. It's made in Germany. It's a linseed oil base, and they have a huge color range. So what I'll be doing is using a white base, and then I'll be adding a percentage of the other colors to get different colors you need. I'm going to start off with the pink, and you can see I have the white, and then I've got the red on the other side. And then I believe I have added 5% of the red to white, and that'll give me my pink tones. And I'll be going with a lot of pastel colors, as you'll see as we go on. But it's a great product. I highly recommend it. And there's the pink that I was after. And it will go darker. So I just put a spot on the page to check it. And when I came back a half an hour later, it was almost the identical color. So, and you can find the range of their paints and colors and color matches online. So that's Osmo paints. And these are my legs. So I'll be sanding these off and getting them ready for the paint booth. You can see my marks. So I'm laying them all up, and there's the back portions. So I've got all the blanks cut, and now I'll be and I did one test for a crayon end. There it is there. I was happy with that. That's down 3 1/4 inches from the top with a 5/8 shoulder cut on it. So I'll mark them all out, and then I'll go to the bandsaw and cut them all out. There they are after they're all cut out. Now I'll sand them all. And then once they're sanded, then I'll take them to the paint booth. The front of the chair is going to have a round apron on it. So what I have to do is cut the front seat slats on a 15-degree angle. I like to do this on a bandsaw on small projects. So I've just set up my table at 15 degrees and I'll run all my pieces. And then I can wrap around the front of the chair to give a nice soft round edge to it. I see a lot of people on using bandsaws, but they never seem to tilt their table. I always do. It's a safe and easy way. If you're only doing 5 or 6 pieces, it's nice and quick. Just make sure your blades are nice and sharp. And here's the, so what I've done is drop the front of the apron on the front of the armrest. Those are the 2 armrests, and they've been painted. No, these are crayons. This is inside my spray booth. I didn't spray these though. These are done by brush. I'm just hanging them up to dry. And that's only 1 coat of paint, and that's all these will be getting. I want to see the grain of the wood come through, so, but it really has good coverage, and those are all the colors that I came up with. Now I'm starting to put together my leg assembly, and what I've done is put a stop block on and put a mark on my fence. This is the fence at my compound miter saw. And I'll just square that up against the fence because I know it's good and square. And then I can put a couple of pins in it. And what I'm doing here is just I'll pin all the pieces on, and then I'll countersink some holes and put some exterior screws in it. Just have to make my marks. Because I know that's just going to be a pivot point there, I'll just put 1 pin in that. And if you're doing this, offset your pins so that you have room for your drill bit and your screws going in. If you notice, all my pins are off to one side, and that's to allow me to drill and put. So I have a mark there. And I'll just double check that. So that's at 15 degrees off the strut coming up. So your back on the Adirondack chair is sloped at 15 degrees. Here it is. I've got it temporarily pinned. And I just use my countersink. Pre-drill all my holes. For the leg strut and the support for the chair rails, I've put the screws on the inside, and then I flip them over, and then I'll put the screws on the outside, and then they'll be under the armrest, so you won't see them. So you have to flip it back and forth. One thing I want to mention is when you're doing this, you always have to keep in mind you have a right side and a left side. So whenever you're mounting your hardware, you have a left and a right. You can see the screws are on the inside, so they'll be all covered up, and the screws on the top will be covered by the armrest. There's my crayons, or my take on crayons. And I hand painted a green trim on them to simulate crayons. So they're all dried, and I'll take my hangers off and get them all prepped and ready to go in the back. And I'll temporarily pin those and put some 1/4-inch dividers for them. I'll have a 1/4-inch gap between them. What I've done is just put a temporary piece on the bottom just to support them while I'm pinning them on. And then I'll countersink and put screws in the bottom. And on the back brace, you can see I'll screw from the back and screw the verticals on through the back brace as I go. whenever you're mixing your paint, you can get some really lovely pastel colors for kids. So this came out really good. I'm quite happy with it. I'm using 1 3/4 screws, exterior screws. Whenever I was laying them out, I decided to go random lengths. I thought they looked like crayons coming out of a package, so they're not even on the top. But if a person wants to make them an arc on the top or straight, but I thought this looked nice. Don't want to move around while I put a pin in it, but finally got it done there. And then I'll just set up the last one. And what I do is I only put one screw. These are 2 1/4 inches wide, and I only put one screw in the back, right in the center, and that'll allow the wood to move back and forth without a splitting. And it's basically just to hold them in place. Here I am, just screwing the bottom now. And these are countersunk as well. And I don't have to fill these or anything because they'll be covered by the first seat strap that goes across. So the first cleat that goes in there will cover up all those screws. There you go, you can get a better idea of the framework on it and the crayons. I think that pattern looks nice going up and then coming down, and I've offset it. If you think so, please send me a comment. And for the strut on the front, and this will stop the chair from rocking back and forth, I'm just putting a spreader in. And what I'm doing is using a Craig jig here. I use these quite a bit. This is just the simple jig, 2 holes. We also have a big stationary machine, but for something like this, I like to use a portable jig. It's easy to clamp on. I'm only making 4 holes. And I'm also using the Craig screws too. I'm just putting the brace in there. We'll just put a clamp on there, just make it tight while I'm doing the screwing. And I'm going to put the screws on the inside, so in case you can see through the front, but you shouldn't be able to. And you can see in the front, we'll just curve those seat straps all the way around the front, so it's a nice soft edge. And this is a great way to use pocket hole screws. And that gives the chair a tremendous amount of strength. We are just putting in the chair cleats. I put in the bottom one and the top one there, and then I'll select all my different colors, divide them all up, and then I'll pull them off, and I'll put a spacer in them. I believe I've measured them all, and I'll be able to put 1/4-inch spacers in them. Once I get them all set up, I'll pull them all out and leave them all in order. And what I'll be doing is I use hot melt glue, and I'll run that along the top where they're being fastened to, and then I can just lay them in there, and tack in place while I use mechanical fasteners. What the hot melt glue does too is it basically acts as a bridging, because it is curved and there might be some airspace. When it gets laid down and it goes hard, they'll be able to bridge the gap, and then you won't get any rocking on or anything. It'll basically embed the piece of wood. So I'm just checking to make sure everything works and everything's in its place. Now I'll take it all apart and then I'll just lay down the hot melt glue. And like I said, I use it, well, as a temporary fastener, but it's also a bedding compound. And here we're just setting up. So this is the table. I built a basic table frame system. The legs are 16 inches high, and we just use pocket screws to fasten the sides all the way around. So it was an easy frame to build. So there's a 2x2s and a 2.5 inch apron all the way around it, and the apron is just fastened with pocket screws. And then I put a screw and I was just putting a dab of hot melt glue down. And what that'll do is just aid me in with these out without a slider around. And we'll just put some more glue on top of this, and then we'll just lay this in, and I'll fasten that onto the table. And what the strap does down the center, it just stops all the small pieces from moving around on me. You can see I've already have my marks there. So I just lay it on the marks and fasten it down, and that'll embed in and hold in place until I can get my screws through. I'll be screwing from the underside. You can see that I've installed a piece of wood on the side of the aprons for screwing the top down to. It's the same thing here. There's only one screw in each one. That's to allow for expansion and contraction. So I'll just go along here and get these all fastened down. And you can see that I wasn't too worried about the paint on the underside. And that's usually the rule of thumb. You never want to paint the underside of wood. If there's any moisture gets into it, if it's not painted, then it can leach out of the wood. So there's the finished product. There's the table and the chair. And you can see the arms rests on. And I forgot to show them the hangers being cut, but there's a couple of supports for the armrests on the front you can see, and the curved front round. I think the project came out pretty good. It's quite colorful, and she'll probably enjoy hours and hours of doing her crayon work on it. So this is built for my granddaughter, and she's 3 years old, so this gives you an idea of the size. So if you like this project, please let me know and subscribe. I always like a thumbs up. One thing I'll say about this project, if you plan on doing it, you really have to plan out all your pieces and your colors and sort of lay it all out. I didn't tack it all together, but you could temporarily put it all together, but you have to determine your pieces and your colors so that you don't end up with a lot of colors in a row. So it does take some planning and some time, but I used 5 different tones, and then I use the dark green for the embossed pieces that you see. But once you figure what goes where, and it takes some time. Gotta wait for the paint to dry and stuff. I hope you enjoyed this project. I enjoyed building it. It's a good build, so. Thank you very much for watching.